Ciao, everybody. This is Lynn Turner, and you're listening to LINEA ROCK.
Welcome, Mr. Lynn Turner, to LINEA ROCK.
Grazie, thank you.
Thank you very, very much. We're here to talk about the new album, Belly of the Beast. And first off, I wanted to ask you, how did the inspiration and motivation behind making new music change for you through the years?
I think about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I stopped doing, maybe even longer, solo albums. I did a few different tracks for people here and there, but I kept writing and I kept thinking about what I wanted to do. And during that time, a lot of personal experiences happened to me. Of course, we all grow, mature, and change. So I think that had a lot to do with it. And then when I finally met Peter Tagtgren, and we exchanged personalities, really, and found that we had a lot in common, we said, wow, it might be interesting to do something together, to make a bridge between melodic hard rock and industrial metal, which is basically Peter's style. And I think we did that. We tried to make this bridge between the two of them, and we stayed right on track. So it's melodic, modern metal, and that's what happened.
Actually, the new album seems more, darker and heavier.
Oh, yeah.
Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Is that because it's the child of nowadays, of our times, of what we're living?
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct, because art is a reflection of life. It should be a mirror of reality. And the reality today, if you look around you, is just that. It's not hearts and flowers. It's a pretty dark times. I also had some very big personal experiences. I had a heart attack in 2018, which was dark night of the soul, really, which was the epiphany of what your purpose in life is. Yeah. It takes on a much deeper meaning. You're much more grateful for life every day. You don't take it so much for granted, You don't complain because you're breathing, you're still here. So my life took on a much deeper, shall we say, deeper than it ever was, a mission, a purpose, a meaning. So absolutely. And today's, look around today and you tell me how dark these things are. Now, we've had dark days before, and I had a song like that on one of my solo albums, but this was inspirational because the record, if you just tell the story, the album tells itself. I like to tell stories in songs, and this is the stories. Here are the stories, and no one seemed to be speaking about it. Everybody was like this. So I felt rock and roll was always rebellious, was always outlaw, was always anti-establishment, and I was just staying in line with the fact that this is what we should be about, and I was really concerned that none of my colleagues were doing it.
And why the belly of the beast? And what's the belly of the beast for in this case for you?
Okay, well, let's first discuss what the beast is. The beast system. The beast system is not my term. It's an old term. It's as old, goes back past the Romans. The beast system is the system that we live in. The economical, the financial, the governmental, the religious, medical, pharmaceutical, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It is a system that we as a humanity live within. That is the beast system. It's always been referred to it. When I say we are in the belly of the beast, it's because we are somewhere now being devoured by this system. They have tried before, many times, authoritarianism, tyrants, people have tried to consume the masses and enslave the masses. And it's, as stated in Revelation in the Bible, it's happening again.
Yeah. And about Tortured Soul, I read that it's about a friend of yours, but maybe you also are a torturer. So I am,
Absolutely.
everybody is in a sense. So what's, what was the spark actually behind, dedicating this song to a person in particular?
Well, this is what I realized. If you read one of the press releases, it's probably on my page. But I said at first it was from my friend who had the post-traumatic stress disorder, a veteran from the wars. But as I really we started to develop the line of the video. We realized it was about everyone. It's about the smallest to the greatest trauma, as you said, we all have, from childhood, from birth to present day. We all have some type of trauma. If you live on this planet, you will have trauma. And of course, I am a tortured soul, as you indicated you are, and we all are. It could be about a rape victim. It could be about a physically abused victim. It could be about emotionally abused. It's any type of torture that goes through our lives, that all our lives, what we try to do is really heal ourselves from these things. If we're smart, sometimes people need therapy, which sometimes is a very good effect. It's a very good mechanism. And sometimes people never get the help they need. They can't figure it out for themselves. But we are all somehow a tortured soul. So that's why the video sort of seems to indicate these different characters, from young boys to women, married women, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And which is your personal torture, if you have one that maybe actually is in the song some way?
Well, it's all part of the song, because torture, for me, growing up, I had alopecia at 3 years old, which is very rare, which is really in the medical books, because I had a friend of my father's who got alopecia. He was 35. I remember I was maybe 10, 11 years old, and he got alopecia at 35. That's usually when it happens to a man or a woman. It's later on in life. But mine was like 3 years old. My mother was washing my hair in the bathtub, and it all came out. We won't get into the reasons why this happened, but they really feel that it was due to too many inoculations that they were giving children at too much of a young age before the blood barrier is formed in the brain. And this goes into the system becomes shocked, and the autoimmune system reacts in a certain way. So, having said that, this was torturous my whole life. Not so much when I was very young, because I had love and support from my family and friends. But once you got into school, it was another story. Children can be very cruel, and it was a very torturous upbringing, because I had to fight names as if I had any control over this, I didn't have control over this. So it's not something I asked for. And yet I would take abuse for it every single day. And regardless if it was trying to play on a sports team or trying to date a girl or anything like that, and trying to be in a band. Back then it was all about the hair, right?
Right.
So it was torturous. And among other things that children go through. Normally, of course, we all have similar different things, but this was one big one for me. So I understand when people are emotionally, psychologically abused, and to me, tortured soul, it just rings true for every person on this planet. We all have our private torture.
About this topic, actually, you shocked, the people, the fans, and, the rumors were around. But finally, this year, few weeks ago, you decided actually coming out, bold and beautiful, let's say.
Thank you.
Why now?
Well, first of all, I don't think I was ready. And with the love, support, understanding of my family, close friends, especially my wife, who thinks I'm much sexier without it. But she's right, I think. I just said, I'm 71 years old. I'm not trying to hide it from anyone. But what the hell is the difference, right? So with the change, with the transformation of my music, I made a transformation physically, and I said, okay, here we go. It's not a big deal to me. It never was. But also, I think the industry wasn't ready. I think back then, as we discussed, everything was about the hair and about, you know, and you had to fit in with the uniform. Okay? Everybody
So
wears a uniform. Everyone wears a costume in life. As Shakespeare said,
let's
this is
say
a
it was a
stage.
big part of it.
Let's say it was a big part of it. So I
Yeah.
figured now is the time, just like a good wine, you can't make the wine come before its time. It needs to ferment, and I needed to ferment. I needed to be more strong emotionally, more strong psychologically, more mature, and I think I've reached that point. And the
Yeah.
upshot of that whole thing is, which is really unique, is that if I want to play a show like the old Joel and Turner, I just put the hair back on.
Yeah.
And if I play Belly of the Beast, I take the hair off. Now,
Yeah.
this is a costume. And you know
Yeah.
what? Bands like Kiss, bands like Slipknot, Ghost, they had the makeup, they had the masks, they had the hair, they had
Sure.
everything. There's no big deal with this. This is show
Right.
business.
Yeah.
So what's the big
That,
deal?
yeah. That's a good idea, by the way.
Yeah,
And
it is.
you mentioned Peter, which is
Yeah.
the producer, and you work with him. But actually, you know, thinking about Peter and what's his past, you know, what's his career, he seems a figure which is far away from your genre. Why he is not? Tell us about it.
Well, the genre, you know, there was a time, let me preface it by saying this. There was a time there were no genres. I
Yeah.
grew up in the 60s, you know, I'm a love child, you know, and
Yeah.
there was no genres.
Mhm.
You could go to a show, and I did. I was at the Fillmore East where I saw Yes, Sly and the Family Stone, Eric Burden and the Animals, you know, all on one bill.
Yeah.
It didn't matter, you know. It was like a Woodstock. There was all kinds of different music. When you listen to
Right.
the radio, you didn't have a metal channel. You didn't have a pop channel. You had radio, and there were
It was rock.
different. Yeah, it just was rock. So
Yeah.
now we're getting into genres, whether it's death metal or thrash metal or pop rock or melodic rock and you know hard rock and soft rock and you know this is a man-made concept. All of this is the business has created
Yeah.
this, okay? And I don't necessarily think for the better either, but that's my
Mhm.
opinion. Anyway, this is the genre. So Peter's a musician, brilliant musician. He's multi-instrumentalist, producer, co-wrote everything with me, did all the tracks. I mean, he's just brilliant. And most importantly, personally, we had a chemistry. We
Yeah.
found out that we actually liked certain things about each other, that we had certain interests, and that brought us together like this. And then
Right.
when the final question was asked, why don't we do something together? That would be unique. We said, would it work? And we said, well, we don't know, but we can try.
Yeah.
And here we are, and we did. It's a nice marriage.
And it worked actually.
Yeah,
So you
it worked very well because I really think we created something fresh, something new. I don't think anything out there sounds exactly like us. I really don't. I really
yeah,
think
well,
that we have.
something that it's pure Jolene Turner, but it's also fresh. So, you know,
Yes,
the best of both worlds, let's say.
that's right. That's right. Good
Great.
marriage. Good marriage.
So among the 50 plus albums that you've delivered, you know, or been involved in, why Belly of the Beast is a must have for everybody that enjoys rock and roll?
Well, I think it's for everybody who enjoys good music, good rock and roll, and especially with the hybrid that we created. It's something
Yeah.
fresh, as we were saying. But I think because also it is a sign of the times, and I think it's an important record. And I think this album will go down as an earmark in our history of rock because, you know, as I said, nobody's talking about these subjects.
Yeah.
Not really. Nobody's coming out and saying what I'm saying. They maybe disguise it a little bit, but that's not addressing the issues. I'm trying to address certain issues, whether they're personal or geopolitical or whatever. I'm addressing certain issues. So I think in many ways, this album is an important album. I know it is for me personally as an artist, but I also think that people will get a lot out of it. There's music, but there's also a message. And I think that's important.
Have you ever had a moment through your career where you wanted, to do something different, maybe in the music business, but different, than singing and composing songs? Did you ever had this will?
Well, I never had any doubt about it. And I'm 71 years old now, and I think I've just come out, as many say in reviews, that this could be a highlight of my career. So it's pretty remarkable that I'm still here doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, I never had a moment of doubt that this was what I was meant to do. And I've never been more sure as of this moment right now that this was what I was meant to do. Because if this is even my swan song, per se, I could go out happy and just say, okay, man, I made a mark. I did something here that I think is meaningful, artful. I think it's very artful, including from the cover, which is an actual photograph, a painting that my friend did. A year and a half before I had this album finished, I said, that's the cover of Belly of the Beast. Even right down to the photographs and the image, everything was done in an artistic way. And I think what we tried to do is just upgrade, instead of just slapping some guys sitting together in a field, we tried to make some art type photos, and we tried to make this cover a real piece of art, which it is. It's hanging on my wall right here.
Okay.
Very big painting, very big painting. And for me, I think there's never been a doubt in my mind. I never wanted to do anything else. I could do something else. I have a BA in English literature, which also helped me to write because I went to university. But I'll never forget. My mother said, "You have to get an education." She said, because otherwise you're gonna fall on your bottom. And I said, "Ma, if I fall on my face." So
Actually, when you joined Fandango in 1977, could you imagine that, this could be such a long, long ride? Or actually, living it day by day and taking chances is the real trick, to take it far?
Yes, it really is. You're absolutely correct about that. No, back then, I never even, I always look towards the future. I try not to look back. I try not to live in the rearview mirror, as they say, because you have to go forward. You can't look in the rearview. But I don't think anyone can imagine their life. Even when you look back now, I say to myself, I'm 71. I remember when I was 19. So can you. You can remember it like yesterday,
Yeah.
And you don't know where it's going to take you or where you're going to take it. But my father said one thing to me, rest his soul. He said, "Joe, don't go after life. Life will come after you." And I didn't understand what he meant until I was much older, when I realized you stop chasing something. You dream, you believe, you work hard, but you stop going after something you let it come to you. You embrace it. You let the universe give you this manifestation. It's like love. If you try to go find love, you're never going to find it. It's
true.
Has to happen.
Absolutely true. And in hindsight, is there something that you would change in your career, or everything is like, brought you here?
Well, that's exactly right. Because if you change one thing, you're not here.
Yes.
If you change one thing, you're not here. It's like going back in a time machine, trying to stop certain events that happened in the world.
Yeah.
Good or bad, we'd never be here if these events didn't happen. So I think the sum total of what we are is because we went down this road. We can't change anything. I have regrets, a few, like Sinatra says, a few, but too few to mention.
Yeah.
Everyone
you did
has
it
regrets,
your way.
You
did it.
Good or bad, I did it my way. I mean, just that simple. You make mistakes, but again, my papa was wise. He said, "A man who don't make a mistake makes nothing. Learn from your mistake." God bless him. I did.
You worked with Ritchie and with his song JR in Over the Rainbow.
Yeah.
What's the pure essence of the Blackmore DNA after you had a taste of both the father and the son?
Yes, yes, yes. And there is definitely proof of genetics. There's no doubt about that. Um, First of all, I mean, working with Ritchie's brilliant. In my opinion, he is a genius. He's an innovator, and no matter how he got there or how he ciphers it in his own mind and spirit, he got there, and he's an icon. And it was an honor and a privilege to work with Ritchie and to write some really great rock songs that we came up with. We had a wonderful chemistry. And when
Yeah.
I met JR, it was a similar feeling, and he wasn't playing so much. And I said, look, what if we did a band called Over the Rainbow and you played guitar? You look like him. Can you play like him? He says, fortunately or unfortunately, I do play like him, but a little more modern. And I said, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, be ready in 6 months. We're going to start this project and we're going to go out and we're going to do this. And fortunately, it was a very good project, except as all bands within the band structures happen, ego comes up with everybody. And
Yeah.
everybody started wanting to take control of the positions and what have you. And that was the downfall. It's the downfall of a marriage. It's the downfall of many a good band. It's the downfall of many a great man.
Yeah.
So you have to check your ego at the door,
I saw the show at Sweden Rock Festival and it was very exciting. It was brilliant. It
Yeah.
was great show. I really enjoyed it very, very much. I hadn't,
Thank you.
the chance to see a rainbow back in the days, but that was, very
Close.
close to that. Yeah, very close to
Yeah,
that. The
very
experience
close.
was perfect.
Yeah.
Another larger than life personality you work with is Mr. Malmsteen. When his name, comes up, the fact that is so hard to deal with is the first comment that you get. What would
Yeah.
you say at his defense?
In his defense, I think, Ingve is perfectionist. And when you're dealing with a perfectionist, you're always going to have a commanding presence, and you're always going to have somebody who's not going to agree with anyone else but himself. But I think what happened is that I won his trust and I won his respect, both personally and professionally. And I think Odyssey was maybe, in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinions, the best work we did together. In other words, I thought he played brilliantly. I thought the songs were amazing. I know it's some of my best performances, really. I mean, we were very strong in those days. So I think when you're dealing with a personality like Ingve or even Blackmore, you
Yeah.
have to be emotionally and psychologically ready to deal with these kind of people. And
Okay.
I always say that I learned what not to be or who not to be. In other words, I learned a lot from those guys because sometimes when you want to control everything too much, what happens is that you lose sight of something that might be very important that someone has to say or
Yeah.
offer. And that's why I always listen to everyone around me. And then, of course, I have to make up my own mind. But constructive criticism is
Yeah.
good criticism. Destructive criticism, I don't listen to at all. And you can easily tell what's constructive and what's destructive. So I think that's it. But Malmsteen, he can be a devil 1 minute and an angel the next, honestly. He can be a teddy bear, too. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's a good defense, by the way.
Yeah,
All right.
in his defense.
And do you think that if Slaves and Masters, which by the way is one of my favorite albums ever, didn't come out, with the Deep Purple logo on it, but maybe with a different name, we would tell another story now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Deep Rainbow, they were calling it, well, what are you going to do? You have four guys from Deep Purple, 3 guys from Rainbow. you know, what I think, first of all, the music was changing at that point too. with the Seattle sound and a lot of other things.
Yeah.
But mostly people, fans, and I say this with a lot of love and respect, they're afraid of the changes. They were like, I took a big chance changing my complete self here, my music,
Yeah.
my genre, and everything. And thank God I was wonderfully accepted and supported and loved by everyone. Right now, we're doing very well. So I can't thank them enough. But what happened then was that it was like, well, some people wanted the Gillen camp back, you know, and some people wanted Dio, and then people want this.
Yeah.
And what they don't do is what you just said. It's your favorite record because you listen to the music.
Yeah. It's right.
Simply listen to the music.
Yeah.
Don't worry about this and that. Take it as the value that it gives you. This is how you should respond to that. You understand? So of course you do, and thank you for saying that, because I know it's one of Ritchie's favorite records. He said that in the press.
Wow.
He actually said that. It's a strong record, and it was a great time.
It is.
I'm honored and deeply proud and honored to be a part of the Purple family and the whole lineage, because it's rock history, it's rock legacy.
And it's still a jewel after so many years, you know. I still enjoy to listen to it. So it's exactly. Amazing. That's the power of music.
Yes, it stands the test of time.
Right. In another life, would you accept in that period to join Bad Company and or Foreigner? Or it's actually, you know, you cannot change, of course, what happened and still, you know, go with Deep Purple?
Well, what happened was, quite honestly, was that the Foreigner thing didn't work out because Lou was coming back, and I also pissed off the manager because I don't like to be pushed around. Yeah. You know, I didn't think it was respectful, and I didn't think it was right. But this was the nature of that particular manager and man. He's not with us anymore, and that's a shame. But I have it on personal knowledge that he never got over me. He was always mad at me. So anyway, that's what happened with Foreigner. But then when I got the call from Deep Purple, even before I responded to the Bad Company, I said, I got to make a choice right now. If I'm going to pursue Badco, I've got to just drop everything and pursue Badco. I said, so rather than do that and start to get involved in the questions and answers and negotiations, I have to make up my mind. And I just said, I'm going to do Deep Purple. So thank you, but no thank you. And that's when they got Brian Howe. And that's when I went off to Purple.
Right. Will you ever write an autobiography book, or it's too dangerous?
No. It's always dangerous, but you know, when you get my age, you don't care anymore.
All right.
Problem. But yes, there is a book in the making. There's been a book in the making, and the problem is that I keep making more and more. I keep, you know,
adding things, chapters and chapters. Yeah.
Yeah. She's a wonderful writer. We were just in touch again today. And she said, did this happen on such and such a date? And I said, her name is Julie Mills. And I said, Julie, I can't even tell you dates. I don't remember dates. I just remember the flow of life like a river. So yes, there is a book. And the book is not going to be finished until I'm finished. When I say that, when I finally say, okay, look, now it's time to put this out. I'm at the end of this road.
So so we will have to wait a bit more. Okay,
I'm still driving down the road.
Right. Yeah. Are Sinatra and Caruso still part of your favorite playlist at home?
Almost every day. Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
You start the day off with some opera, some classical, and then of course by the cocktail time it's Sinatra. You know, because he was my father. My whole family, my Italian family, was all musical, and they all sang and played instruments, and it was in the genetics. And this was my everyday routine. So I know just about every word to every Sinatra song, and all of the Italian tenors and baritones, you name it. I mean, I could go on and on and on, because this is what we played in the house. And my father always told me, he said, look, you like rock, but listen to everything. Because when you listen to everything, your ear will develop, and you can put many different colors into your own style and your own music. And he was absolutely right.
I agree.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And which are the three songs that you wrote that you are most proud of? And is there one song that you wish you had written and that you would steal from somebody else?
Wow. That's a difficult question, you know, because I always answer the same way. Songs are like children.
Mhm.
And when you say you love one child more than the other, or no, you love them differently.
Mhm.
But I have to say the number one song that is more personal to me is The Street of Dreams, because
Okay.
it is about an actual happening that happened to me. I believe in reincarnation. It's been proven to me in my life. Many
Yeah.
people can deny it, but that's up to them. My experiences is that I've seen people before, I've known them, so on. And this was about a woman, a face of a woman that I kept seeing 20 years before her own birth. And
All
finally, I
right.
met her 22 years later, and I married her, and we're still married to this. Absolutely. So, The Street of Dreams is one of my
Is
favorite
number
songs of
okay.
all
So
time.
okay,
And and
and the song.
there are many songs I would wish I wrote. Many different songs from many different artists. Absolutely. For
First
example,
one that comes to your mind, yeah.
okay,
Fir-
Don Henley's Heart of the Matter.
All right,
Okay,
great
what a
one.
song.
Yeah.
I was going through a divorce, especially at that time. And my
Okay.
God, if I didn't have the tears on that song, I don't
Mhm.
even know what to say. But he said it right, you know. He said it
Yeah.
right on that song. There are people in your life, you know. I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking of his lyrics, you know.
Right.
So
The
what a
healing
beautiful
power
song.
of music. Yeah.
Yes,
The healing power of
absolutely.
music. Okay.
He got me. He got me through it.
Okay, last question. Are you planning a tour for this album, and will Italy be on the map?
Oh, please. It better be. I can't go without the food and the people. Come on. The best place. I found some of the best lasagna I ever had at a petrol station
Oh, wow. Yes.
On the Adriatic coast, even. Okay. And I was like, we're just driving along, oh, many years ago. So anyway,
Right.
what I'm trying to say is, come on, it's in my blood. But absolutely, I want to go on the road. We're looking into a very big agency right now. We hope
Mhm.
we can, as we say, hook them and say, come on, put your support behind me. But my problem is here is that I'm reading now how many people are canceling and how many groups are
Yeah.
canceling and how many promoters cannot afford. Money is very tight. Money is extremely tight. And how many promoters cannot afford the venue, the security, the deposit, you know, just to turn on the lights. It's expensive. And we're all worried amongst some very notable friends and myself talking and saying, well, let's see how it goes because we all think we're out of the woods, but maybe we're not out of the woods. We have to
Yeah.
see how this world turns out. But you better believe it. If there's a chance at all, I'm going out there and I'm doing nothing but Belly of the Beast. That's
Yeah.
it. I won't be
Okay.
doing I Surrender anymore.
Very last thing about the road. Since your voice is still in such a great shape, which are the tricks? Do you have a discipline to, keep it so top form? That maybe
Yeah,
you would suggest, to young singers?
well, I was very lucky after 5 voice teachers in New York City and the metropolitan area. I found Martin Lawrence, who is passed now, but his son Don Lawrence still teaches the same technique. It's a pyramid technique. And what he does is he saves your vocal cords and teaches you how to sing with the diaphragm. That's why you see Caruso and people with very big diaphragms, because
Yeah.
you don't sing from here, you sing from here and from the diaphragm, and you let the air pass through you and you color the tones with the throat. But let's just say this, everybody's human and we all get tired, especially at this age, okay? And I respect everybody, but the point is, you can't do too much work. You have to. When I was 19, I could do 5, 6 nights in a row, no problem. Now I would do two, one off, two off, that
Yeah.
kind of thing, because you just can't beat yourself up anymore. You have to know your limits. So you have to take a rest period, at least a little, if you want to be in top shape.
Yeah.
And I've sang with a sickness and with colds, because my teacher taught me to sing above the cold. It has nothing to do. In fact, I Surrender was sang with a cold. I
Oh,
can still hear it on the recording to this day. Absolutely true. Sang with a cold. But the point is, a vocalist has to get some rest, especially sleep. And it's very, very hard to get that type of comfort on the road. So,
wow,
take
with a
care of
cold,
yourself.
and you made
Yes,
history. So, you know,
yes, I know.
you are such a big talent, Joe. It's been such a pleasure for me to
Thank you.
talk to you, and I hope to meet you in person very, very soon again.
Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate it. And please let me just tell all my friends and fans there and my families there that I love you. Thank you for your eternal support. And please check out Belly of the Beast. Stay well, stay healthy, and love each other.
Thanks for your time. We love you too.
Absolutely. Ciao.
Ciao, Joe.
Ciao,
Ciao. Have a nice day. Ciao. Anche a te.
Cheers. Cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.